Today we're talking about emotional and mental wellness. And when I think about how I feel about the time, how I might feel about the season, this is really something that just helps keep me steady, right? Because on every day, I think about our Goldie that we talked about, right? Doing your stuff in the mirror, saying it's going to be a great day, pouring into yourself so you can get ready for whatever you face. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Oh, me too.
Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, an all natural skincare company that helps you glow from head to toe. I'm a champion for your natural self care, sustainable business care, and overall intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon bestselling author and publisher, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week with special expert guests and have intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do this? Right?
Yes.
Talking about the end of the year.
Yeah.
We haven't talked, especially we haven't talked live in 2 weeks. So delighted to be back with you and delighted for the rest. I always think, is it rest this time of the year? Especially like if we're cooking and cleaning and things like that. But
Good question.
a pause or different work, right? I was thinking as we wrap the end of this year, I was talking to Cynthia Phelps, Inner Allies, and she and I have been we have been accountability buddies for several years with our businesses. And every year I do this with her and I do it with private clients. I do an end of the year audit where I look at my wins for the year. And I go back and I look at my calendar and I look at my photos and I write it all down. And I look at what worked and what didn't work. And it's a way to process the year and it's a way to hold myself accountable, right? And also vision and dream for the next year.
Right.
Well, it came up a couple of weeks ago and she was like, "Hey, it's time to do our end of the year win list." And I burst into tears. And
Wow.
it was so unexpected. Cuz you know me, like I mean, I definitely get emotional. I'm in my body and things like that, but I usually don't burst into tears. That's not
No.
a norm. And then I was checking in with myself and I was like, "Okay, what was that about?" Right?
Mhm.
As we're talking about emotional and mental wellness and you
Right.
know, my year started off with grief and loss.
Mhm.
And we have had a lot of wins this year. We published volume 2 of Women Connected in Wisdom.
Yeah.
Volume 1 audiobook came out. Like, I mean, we have had some really good wins. So it's not about that there's not wins.
I understand.
It was about I've got to look at this whole year,
Mhm.
right? And boy, this year, holy guacamole,
It was
Batman,
heavy. It was heavy.
right? It was intense. So I say all that to say, let's be gentle with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
As
And to
Go ahead.
give no, excuse me, you were finishing your sentence as
I was just going to say, as we look at this year, as we process this year, as we head towards next year, right? I
yeah.
know, there's so much about finish strong and do this and do that. And I think I want to hold the other end also is let's be gentle with ourselves. Like
Mhm.
this, you said since 2020. I mean, it's been a lot, y'all. It's been a lot.
Yes, it has.
And it's been a lot of co um, oh, I just lost my word.
Continuous,
Compiled,
compounded.
compounded grief. We like
Mhm.
compounded interest. We didn't really like compounded grief, but
Do not enjoy that one.
it has been for almost every individual that I know and the world.
Mhm.
So really, yeah, I've said
Yeah.
enough. What are you thinking about it, my friend?
No. And you're fine. And I'm gonna give it a little space for it because you could say more. We have a podcast. It's episode 139. So you have however much space you need to say everything. And I would, when we're gentle with ourselves, also give credit
Right.
because you did carry the weight. You pulled your weight.
Right.
and you handled the things in front of you. And the expected goal list versus what happened might look different. But when we are saying, hey, instead of this in March or July or September, it was this, give
Yep.
yourself credit for whatever happened, because when we look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, it might not have been in one category, but you shifted because you needed it or your community needed it, and that counts for something. So
Well, and when I think about that, I think about family caregiving being around social wellness,
mhm.
right? It's our family, it's our friends, it's our communities.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean
And it
it's
affects a lot, especially with me now being a licensed agent. It's still kind of crazy to wrap my mind around. Yes, thank you. But when we think about taking care of our community, we've had friends who are helping caregive for family members, and that now you're in a situation, and I would love everybody to be set up to where, yes, we're taking care of family members, but there's also somebody else that can do that part, just like for the business. If I need somebody to do this social media for Black Friday next year, it doesn't have to be me. It still needs to get done, but let's have what we need in order to balance it and carry the weight the way we feel like we best can with the capacity that we have. So definitely giving yourself credit. Definitely grace, definitely looking at everything. And I like what you said about the end of the year audit, because for me, when I think about what we're looking forward to for 2024, what came up is it reminds me to have realistic expectations, right? You could put all this stuff on, but are you going to get this done in 21 hours? Are you really, like, let's space it out a little bit, or how can we take this off and still make it a win-win situation and show up the way we feel like we're supposed to, but make it effective, make it consistent, and make it sustainable.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and I think about we've already got our 2024 visioning party, Connected and Vision party that we do every year, and
Yeah.
it's virtual and it's online. And when is it? It's like the second week in January.
January 10th. Yes. January
Right.
10th after the podcast.
I like I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of one of those order jump around. Y'all know that
Mhm.
about from the podcast and who I am. But I also kind of like, okay, I like to look at the last year and see what worked and what didn't work so I can vision for the next year. So I try to do this like starting now. I do it
Mhm.
from now until that visioning party. And I
Yeah.
also let it bubble up. Like, when I look at it, it's not I don't look at a win just like how much money I got paid, or
Mhm.
I look at what was the feeling I had. Who did I collaborate with? Who do I want to see more of in 2024?
Right.
Like all of that part, right? When I think
Mhm.
about this year for us, like we had a couple of incredible book signing events,
Yeah.
right? And that I would love to collaborate and redo some of those for volume 2 and volume 3.
Right.
But, like, it was just fun, and we
Mhm.
had a good time, and we did some travel and met some people, and so that was a blast, and I think about all that. I like to dream and what's realistic and what's a little bit out of, like, what's just a little bit further that we can stretch for, you
Right.
know? So, so fun.
I think it's important. And when I think about mental and emotional and taking that time to process, right, I don't think that it can be understated how important that is to really break it down, unpack everything that happened. What can I use? What do I need to sift? What do I keep? What can I do better? And the space to daydream, is something that we use when we plan together. And I think that that creative expectation, right, the hope of what could be, the release of I need to do something right now, and you're just daydreaming, and what would it look like in a perfect world, or what does success look like for you in this category that you're thinking about for next year, sometimes can surprise me with the things that I think about that I either A, forgot I wanted, right? Or B, maybe I didn't think about it like that, but with me thinking about last year and, oh yeah, it reminds me of this conversation, let me remember to put that on the calendar to make it easier.
Right? Because it's not just us. Sometimes other people things have come up for, and
Mhm.
they wanna still collaborate or do something, but they may have dropped off our radar because
Yep.
we're running down the road a mile.
Yep.
And so,
Mhm.
that's why I like to look at my calendar and think, "Oh, yeah, this person or that person," or but you said a word that really popped out at me when you said
Okay.
it. It was the word create. Because one thing I know in the midst of family caregiving and travel this year that I haven't gotten to do as much as I want to, and that's create.
Mhm.
Uh, and I want to really schedule some art time. I have a big art project that's wanting to move through about
Mhm,
grief and loss,
mhm.
and so setting aside some time or seeking an artist residency or something like that to where it's structured. I think that's one of the things I'm going to look for in 2024.
I think
So
that's beautiful.
yeah.
And before we go into the definition and bring our guest up, I would challenge it as per usual, right? I would challenge it and say that you did create. One of my favorite things that you did this year is your road trip with Aunt Joan. And
Uh, yeah.
right? And I was so super proud of you for taking the opportunity to do that and grateful that you had that opportunity to be creative and to not have um things super rigid, and we could stop here, we can have fun. And for me, that watching you this year, I feel like the way that you've supported your community has been where your creativity has been used.
Yeah, thank you for that. It
Yeah.
hasn't been my traditional art, like, it hasn't
Right.
been my mixed media or visual art, but you're right, like, that road trip was epic, and
Yeah.
it was a creative journey in itself, and I still wanna write about I don't so part of the big art project that wants to come through is with about Aunt Joan,
Yeah.
and, she was a skydiver, she was a master jump master, and, I have her parachute, and
Mm.
oh, I have one that's jumpable and one that's not.
Okay.
And, she's like, "I don't think anybody will want this." I'm like, "I want it. I'm gonna do an art project with it." Like, I'm thinking
Mhm.
big art and really I'm wrapping my brain around it, right? And, about how I wanna do it to honor her as a person, but really challenge our views on healthcare and, what wellness looks like and why our system is so broken, like when somebody gets cancer and what that looks like and all the things, right? Like
Right.
just all the things. I don't know, it's coming in. I don't
It's
know
coming in.
exactly, but it is something I'm stating it out loud, scary as that is,
You got
because
this.
it's something that I know I need to do, but want
Mhm.
to do.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I want to make space for that. So
Beautiful. Yeah, I love skydiving. Do it. I'm here
right,
for it. Yeah,
right.
yeah. I'll
So
champion you.
we're done. Yep.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, are you ready for me to read the definition? And let's bring our friend and colleague up to the stage.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. So today, y'all, we're talking about emotional and mental wellness. Emotional and mental wellness is about being aware and intentional of our feelings in all situations. It includes having the capacity and tools to handle and express these emotions in a healthy manner and the ability to learn and grow from experience. Emotional well being encourages autonomy, useful decision making skills, and striving towards good mental health.
Mhm. The striving towards good mental health, and the being aware and intentional of the feelings in all in all situations. When I think about women and talking and conversations and community, I think a lot about how people say, "Oh, well, you're just being emotional." Well, no, it doesn't. There's emotion in there because we're humans, yes. But I was actually talking about this over here. But then it reminds me of Eileen Dillon, one of our Amazon bestsellers, with our guest that's coming on today, and how she talks about emotions being signs. Right. So, okay, anger came up, right? She's a recovered angry person.
Mhm.
Anger came up. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That might be a good thing if it's warranted, right? You see that you have boundaries, which is good. This is necessary. So this person has done something. Now you have an opportunity to continue to grow the relationship or be in a healthier place, right? I think that's a great thing. Um, so when I think about this year and working through it, being intentional about how we feel and then breaking that down, processing, like we said, and then how do we move toward good mental health? That's what I'm excited about in this conversation with our guests.
Yeah, and before we bring her up, I want to acknowledge as we talk about striving for mental health, we
Mhm.
can't let today go by without calling Rosalynn Carter's name. Today, she was buried in Plains, Georgia. We are based out of Atlanta, And for those of us who are listening who may be overseas or not know who she is, Rosalynn Carter was the wife of President Jimmy Carter. She served as the First Lady of the United States from 1977 to 1981. And was, she was known for so many things, but probably best known, she was a leading advocate for women's rights and mental health. She stood up at times that, other people weren't talking about mental health. They weren't talking about emotional and mental well-being. And she has for years and, built homes for people through Habitat for Humanity and helped solved I'm going to get it wrong. It was an epidemic. It was a worm that used to cause blindness.
Okay.
And through the Carter Foundation, she and President Carter eradicated that disease. Like, it took it from being where these kids, like, yeah, it was incredible. If
Wow.
I don't have it pulled up, but
That's
when I went
okay.
to the Carter Museum, I remember seeing this exhibit and
Mhm.
thinking, holy, like, this couple did so much they were out of office. Like, they could have gone to the house, right?
Yeah.
They wrote books. Like, she was a prolific writer and just like definitely a woman connected in wisdom, right? And so I
Yes.
just want to honor her life and her legacy. And the other thing that just always amazed me, because I got the chance to meet them. I took my Girl Scout troop a couple of years ago
Mm.
to Plains, Georgia. And we got to listen to President Carter do Sunday school, and we got to take a picture with
Mm.
Miss Carter and President Carter. And they lived in the same house that they had lived in before they went to the White House. They wrote all these books they did, but they put their life into charity and service and just incredible human beings. And I think about a life well lived, you know.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you for all the energy and the work put in so we can have these conversations, you know?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. All
So
right, you ready to introduce our guest and get her up here on stage?
I'm ready. I'm
Let's
ready. Okay, ladies, today we are talking to one of our Amazon bestsellers, Sula Milstead. Sula Milstead is a community builder. Her driving purpose is to facilitate and advocate for all living beings reaching and realizing their maximized potential and contribution. She has been a possibility coach and mentor for over 15 years, focusing on self-care, knowing yourself, and being comfortable in your own skin. She has been committed to a self-care journey for 30 years and has participated in a wealth of self-improvement programs for 15 years, focusing on coaching effective communication and self-clarity. Help us welcome to the stage, Sula Milstead. Hey, Sula. How are you?
I'm doing well today. How are you?
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about emotional and mental wellness that you wrote about in our second volume. So when I
So
think of,
before we go there,
yes.
one thing that is not in her bio that needs to be stated for full transparency is that Sula and I have been friends since fourth grade or
Fourth
fifth grade?
grade.
Ooh,
Fourth grade. We used to walk to school together.
yes.
And then
So
20 years later, I got on a plane, hadn't seen her in 20 years, and then
wow.
rode a train for her. And I have the huge fear of trains.
Mm,
So it's like, I'm doing this. I'm seeing her. So
I
I love it.
knew that you had a huge fear of trains.
good. It's the only
Mm,
train I've ridden. And,
The MARTA?
yeah.
I think I knew that.
mm.
Yeah.
How brave.
So now I'm not scared to get on a train. I still don't like going under them when they're going across, but I'll get on one now. And I have you to thank for that because
Mm.
I don't know of any other motivation that would have finally gotten me a train. So
Well, thank you for that. I learned something today. And
Look
I'm
at you,
glad.
Christine.
How fun.
Inspiring audaciousness.
yeah.
Love it.
Yes. So, Sulu, when I think about your chapter, and I love the title of it, right? Self-care is an all-time job. Because in certain parts of my life, I've had to recalibrate, learn things I didn't know. That's what Volume 1 was about. And especially for me in Volume 2, when I write about intellectual wellness and this whole process that I've gotten really good at of staying organized, right? It actually came from when my mom passed away and I realized how unorganized my thoughts were. And I was trying to organize all the information, get her affairs in order and figure out what that meant. And I realized that I was all over the place, right? So when you think about your work and being a possibility coach, where does that start for you?
Where does being a possibility coach start?
And
Um,
the possibility coach tying it with self-care being an all-time job. Yes.
well, several things. My line used to be self-care is a full-time job. And what I discovered through my own world was what we call self-care a lot is acute self-care. We don't take care of ourselves until something happens and we have to. And I thought I did a really good job of taking care of myself, for the most part. And then I was put into a situation where it was like, oh, this is a whole new level. And I guess, I went through a really bad divorce 18 years ago now. Yeah, 18
Okay.
years ago.
Mhm.
And during that divorce, somebody said the words to me, you need to give yourself some grace. And I had never even conceptualized giving myself some grace. And so we started practicing that at that point in time. Uh,
Beautiful.
Now my dog is barking. I guess she finally heard me talking. And so now she's wishing she was in here. So I apologize.
That's okay.
Um, huh?
I said, that's okay. What's her name?
Micah.
Hey,
Micah Scott.
Micah. Hey,
She's
Micah Scott.
she's
She's
in
another.
another room, but she's loud
Okay.
enough that she's gonna bark outside my door while I'm talking. Um, and then as we're going, fast forward to this
Yes.
year, and I am propelled into a situation, that I didn't ask for, and that pretty much it stopped my world. Um, I realized, self care is an all time job. You take care of yourself all the time, and you build those skills so that you have this reservoir that you can pull from, um, so that you can survive. So, sort
So
of like a bear
important.
hug meeting.
Yes. And
Fatten
especially as people,
the bear, yeah.
wait, what'd you say?
Said you fatten the bear up with self care so it can take a break and survive the
Yeah.
winter, which
It's,
feels what this year has been. It's just been a long bear winter.
mm. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And I hear what you're saying, on pouring into yourself so you can have what you need. And when I saw self-care as an all-time job, it reminded me of my job, right? And how when I was really intentional about self-care over COVID and it had come from being overextended, not knowing how to make a schedule request. So I wasn't being intentional about my quality of life, right? And my work-life balance, it reminded me of how I try to implement self-care at work, right? Well, what does that look like? I try to make sure that I have my water at my workstation, right? That I would take breaks periodically from taking care of the team, might go reset somewhere, I might stretch, I might take deep breaths like we talk about on different episodes. But in some cases, it might be pushed back. There might be pushback against it in a certain environment, right? Or at a certain time that you're not used to. So with you being somebody who helped people with their self-care and their potential, was it different for you to realize like, hey, I still have more work to do in this area? Did it surprise you or did it make sense?
It did surprise me. I literally, I was taken, my daughter died and I was taken to my knees, and, I had enough wherewithal to be like, I need to make a list. I need to talk out loud. So, about 2 weeks afterwards, I would type, today I took a shower. Today I brushed my teeth. Today I made sure and ate 3 meals. And I started posting that so people could see where I was. More people would reach out, and I had someone, fielding those for me because I was not doing a lot of social media. But yeah, it was humbling to be like, I am not, I can't even function.
Right. I hear you. And thank you for sharing. And when I think about your chapter and the bravery of you writing your story, right? And the bravery of you showing up, even having somebody else work on the team and still do social media. For me, I look forward to how it is going to help other people maximize potential in their own families, not from a capitalistic type of conversation, right? Like, you got to go get it. You should be able to go back to work after this happens. That's not what we're talking about, right? But we're talking about being able to show up as your best and have, like you say, in that bear with that extra fat, have a little something to even be able to interact with other people. And if not, give yourself grace to say, hey, this is the time when I'm going to pull away. And like you said, maybe I'm going to have somebody else on social media instead of me on social media, because you don't want me on social media right now. That's not what you want. I think that's wise.
I
Yeah.
had, I had this moment, when we were working the cremation, and I had two friends. I had people come and sit with me just to be in the room with me. I wouldn't let anyone touch me, and I wasn't up for conversation, but I had people come and just sit with me. And two people were there while we were trying to figure out to make the calls to figure out where to have my child cremated. And I had picked the one that I thought I wanted, and the friend that was here just spoke up gently. She's like, "Can make that call," and she held out her hand, and it was this moment of, I can do this. It's my job. To the thinking of, you can give yourself grace and let this other person do it. And I just handed her the papers, and she did it. And
And it was taken care of.
yeah, she came back. She called 3 or 4 places, and the one that I picked was the one that we had went with. But she did the groundwork for me because I am a research person. I want to know all the answers. So she even took that, one step forward, and made all the calls and came back with, the answers so I could pick. And I picked, and she's like, "I can call that too." And she did, and she went all the way to filling out the online thing. To when the email came, I just had to hit a button.
Beautiful. Thank you to friends. Yes.
Well, and
Yes.
also I want to say well done on allowing, right? On allowing the support and the letting go of that, like you said, that it's my job, or I'm supposed to, or I'm, because boy, those societal expectations, whether they come from, the world, our families, social media, they're real. They're real about, how am I supposed to act in this situation or not act or do. Thank you for showing up authentically and listening and being vulnerable.
Yes.
Because that's a big deal.
hmm And what I love about the fact that you had help in that moment too, there's a lot of things, right? But when people say, wow, how do we get through these heavy moments? Right? Well, I didn't do it by myself. I had help from this person and this person, and this person said something and I needed them to, and this person said nothing and I needed them to say nothing. That's beautiful.
It's pretty amazing to me about how everyone did show up. It wasn't everyone trying to do the same thing, and not the easy thing, right?
Right.
And we went to the wake. I had a wake before the memorial, and I had gone in, and I was against the thing, and there was 50 people at the wake, and I was overwhelmed. I was sad, and two of my friends walked up to me, and they were like, "How can I help?" And I was like, "Bring on the wine. Keep that wine flowing. There is no too drunk tonight." And they did. They just kept filling my wine glass. I didn't get too drunk because I could barely drink. But they stood. I had one person on each side of me the entire time. And anytime I needed a snack or a drink or to interrupt the conversation, because, you get situations like that. You get pulled into conversations you don't want. I had an interference at all times.
Beautiful.
The other thing I want to just speak up and speak to, Sula, as a witness to this, as your friend who watched you navigate this. One of the things that I was in awe of was that you were able to be very clear about what you needed or didn't need, or at times you said, I don't know what I need, but what I don't need is, and I mean, it was really inspiring to watch you. And I, knowing you for as long as I've known you, I'm pretty sure part of that comes from your training as a possibilities coach and from Legacy and the work that you've done, because you've been doing some big, deep work for years. Like,
Yeah.
you got some tools in your toolbox, and to watch you was truly inspiring, my friend, at one of the most difficult times of your life. And I don't want to minimize that in any way, shape, or form. But I watched you handle it with authenticity and love for yourself and for others. And I know you're still in that. It's not like it's over, right? This is not a like, oh,
We,
but
we are 2 days from the anniversary, so this is a really rough week.
mm,
So,
mm,
yeah.
look at you showing up, right?
Yes. Yes,
Mm.
on the anniversaries this year, 4 women connected in wisdom, and it's been an honor to
Yeah,
be here
that
on
was
these weeks.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off. The oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. The story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So,
yes, esthetician tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, I work with individual coaching clients, I work in community classes, and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. Especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
One of the things I wasn't prepared for, there's a reason why there's this year of mourning that I never really got until this year, because you have this whole year of firsts that like Monday was the last time I communicated with my child. And I was like, well, that date's going to be forever in our brain. And, first Easter, first everything. They're like every week. And you don't expect that. And it's like, I am really looking forward to the first anniversary so that I never have to do another first for this particular thing. So
I understand.
Um,
So when we talk about the tools and the self-clarity that Christina was talking about, what would you say to somebody who is working on that? Right? Like, as somebody who helps people maximize their potential and look at possibility, what does that even mean, self-clarity?
You know, it depends on where the person is. If someone is in the beginning, it's just be. Let all the feelings in that you are able to, at your own pace. There is no right or wrong way. They say there's 5 stages of grief, but there's not. There's like 30 or 50 or however long. And they're in these stair steps that can be stuck in a mixer and mixed up and rethrown. You're going to hit them all at
Right.
different places, and you might hit one over and over and over. You might get stuck in one and other ones come through. So the first thing is self-clarity is just sit with where you are and let it be and talk to it. Figure out exactly how you feel. Let your feelings in. Because until you do that, you're just fighting an uphill battle.
I can definitely see that, because you're going to have to come back to deal with it and to process it, like we were talking about. That makes sense.
Yeah, one of my big theories in life, and one of the things I really preach, is you hang on to things as long as they serve you. And if you don't let all the feelings in and explore, just let yourself feel them, let yourself acknowledge them, then you won't know what you can let go of. You won't know what's not serving you anymore. And you won't know what is serving you.
I love that. And I love that part of your chapter when I was reading the book, because when I think about the steps that I laid out, right, in this I think that it might be even on the logical side a little bit, right? You could be creative with the process, but where I would get stuck is doing things the same way I knew how, right? If I was taught, like we said, how to read a book from left to right, there might be multiple ways to do it, but that's the way I did it every time, right? But when you're looking at a situation and you do a SWOT analysis throughout it, you sit with yourself and see, how do I feel? You talk with your team and you say, how did this work? You talk with your family, say, how did this work? You can see what serves and what doesn't and get rid of it faster or add things faster and then make it more effective. I love that. So when we talk about maximizing capacity and self-care, right? Because there's difficult situations, there's wins. What do you think about when you hear that? If it's not work, 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 and I know that it's not, what do you think about?
For maximizing capacity, just, if you create opportunities to be your best self, then you get to practice being your best self, and that will maximize your capacity. So this thought just occurred to me in this, because it's like, this feels like the year I've been my worst self, which is, however, with the situation that I've had, it's like, I think I've been my best self with what I've had, and I haven't had that perspective till just this moment. So there's some grace. There's the give yourself grace thing.
Yes.
Right.
So sometimes you just have to realize your capacity is not very large. Sometimes the cup is really big and you can fill it up with lots of fun things. And sometimes your cup is an espresso cup and it's small and rich, and you just got to enjoy it teeny sips at a time.
Right. Sometimes it's like a bottle cap. When I was little, we used to play with the bottle caps, like, how much do you have? And that's what I work on, not judge. When we talk about noticing and not judging, that's what I've been working on. Like, if you have an understandably difficult situation and you feel like you're at a bottle cap side, okay, well, I got a bottle cap for you today. This is where we're operating from, and that's okay. And we'll do better tomorrow. If it's a bottle cap, there's a bottle cap. And if it's bigger than it is, and we'll go from wherever we are in that moment.
I saw a meme recently. Oh, say that again, Sula.
And sometimes you have no bottle cap at all. This year, I've also learned to say no. There's a no as a complete sentence. I have really gotten the full capacity of that sentence.
Which some people never learn. So congrats. Congrats.
Yeah.
Big, especially, yeah. Saw a meme recently on social media that said, if all you had to give today was 40% and you gave 40%, you truly gave 100%. So that perspective too, right? Of we're doing the very best we can. And if you got 0 to give today, you got 0 to give. And to give yourself grace, right?
And it's fair to say no from that place, you know, and that's what I've been getting a lot in conversations I've been having with my community, with the Amazon bestseller, right? With us publishing the book and the audio book, everybody's excited and they want to be here. And like we're saying, everybody's been stretched. So, you know, we operate on no blame, no shame, no guilt. No, if you had a bottle cap, less than a bottle cap, I'm not mad at you for the situation that you're in. You know, we can give grace and appreciate the fact that people are excited about it and that they want to be there. And I look forward to being here whenever the capacity is different, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about coming from that place, right, and helping people with their potential and what they see as possibility, and they're saying, Sula, I don't even have a bottle cap, right? How do you help somebody with the way they think about possibilities from that place?
If someone absolutely has no bottle cap, the first thing I'm going to ask is, how can I help? You know, how can I help? How can I carry the bottle cap for you? Who can I gather to carry a bottle cap for you? Because you get 10 people and then you got 10 bottle caps, and that's going to equal a cup. And that little extra bottle cap for someone who has a whole cup is nothing. And it actually fills their cup to be of service. So there is we as humans are here to be connected. That is what makes us human. And if we don't give other people the opportunity to experience the giving part of the humanity, you know, there's just no reason for us to do anything alone. And we all want to help. I have never met anyone in my life, even the people that I didn't like much, that didn't want to help in some capacity, because it makes you feel good.
Right. Right. And I think about that is how I think about it. And that's how I think about the 8 dimensions of wellness, right? Where am I strong at? Where am I solid? And your chapter talks about this, right? And then where do I need help? And if I go over here and I have 2 or 3 categories that I'm working on, how will that affect my strong categories, right? Making sure that those stay strong. And then if I need support, where can I go? And I love that we have this network of women around the world who have decades, at this point, centuries, we add up all this experience that we have, you know, with resources and tools that can help people in the category that they need support in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So every week we talk about a wisdom in action for the dimension of wellness that we're talking about. And again, with us talking about emotional and mental wellness, what are you doing specifically, Sula, this week for your wisdom in action?
So the last couple of weeks, I realized that the thing that has been missing for me is I have not been able to be a contribution. And so I've had, you know, as soon as I said it out loud, opportunities presented themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving a consent workshop to a safety training for burn. I go to these regional festivals where we burn a beautiful piece of art at the end. It's a community. It's a exercising community. But our safety training is this weekend, and I'm giving an 1.5-hour consent workshop for our site ops team. And that opportunity came out of nowhere, and it came from me. Somebody asked the question if they had resources, and I had all the resources, and then they turned around and said, "Hey, can you give it?" Yeah, actually I can. So
I love it.
Yeah, that's made me feel really good about myself, because now I get to contribute back to this community that keeps giving to me. And then a week later, I've been asked to be an admin for one of the programs that I was in that really helped with my personal journey. So I have a year-long commitment for next year where I can help people with something that helped me.
Congratulations. Yes. And again, I'm going to give you some more credit because you were definitely an Amazon bestselling author and you contributed to a book and to our community. and were showing up to all the calls and was present, asking questions and contributing everything you had on those calls. So you did a really good job this year.
It was a lot of fun too. So like the
Thank you.
give that gives back.
Yeah. Thank you.
I love that. So your hashtag is contributing or giving back.
I have hashtag be a contribution.
Be a contribution.
I like
What do
that.
you think, Sula? How's that? Okay. Okay, good. What
What
about
about
you, Christine?
Oh,
Okay,
you
you
go.
want me to go? Okay, let me see. Emotional and mental wellness. Oh, let's see, Lord. How do I say this? What I'm doing this weekend? I'm gonna say hashtag celebrate life.
I like
And thank you. And we're celebrating life a couple of different ways. Um, we do have a homegoing celebration to go to, right? And we do a lot of virtual things with Women Connected in Wisdom and Connected in Wisdom Press. There is a homegoing celebration for actually one of my ex moms. We were close, Lakeisha Ellington Jordan, and it's in Detroit because they're from up north. So I will not be there in person, but I will be there virtually. So I'm thankful for modern technology and being able to have her as one of my Women Connected in Wisdom, teaching me how to wrap Christmas presents and do things that we do in Women Connected in Wisdom now, right? And also spending time with my best friend, where I'm making sure to get my social time in through the holidays as I balance the work that I've done this year, right? More intentional about that now. And my best friend's aunt is in, and we talk on the podcast about my best friend's mom's house being where we were making Shalo glow. So both of our moms passed away from cancer, and this is her sister coming into town. Last time she came, I was working, so I was able to host them at Papado, and they got to see me in my chef coat. And now we're celebrating life and talking about this year and next year together. So celebrating in person, celebrating life virtually, and gonna take some space for myself to celebrate my own life and my wins this year.
Powerful.
Thank you. What about for you?
I wrote down hashtag give yourself grace. I love that one. And I need to remind myself often, especially as I'm doing this year-end audit. And I like to be your best self. Like I think those are my my two for this week. Be your best self and give yourself grace. So I think that's what I'm going for my wisdom in action this week.
I like it. So I have a question though, because we try to be really specific on the actions, right? When you say be your best self, what are you thinking about?
Well, I am doing an event Friday night with Joe. It's a healing circle in Atlanta. And so, just show up fully embodied and having fun and connecting. And, like you referenced, Sula, like being able to give back. This is a situation where I can give back and have fun and play and do it, with my life partner. So we're going to do some art and we're going to do some healing modalities. And that's what I think about. I think about like, yeah, I'm going to all the things that bring me joy and hopefully facilitate joy for some other folks too.
Definitely. Definitely sounds like it will. I love you guys being able to work together. And happy belated anniversary.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Of
you.
course. Of course. Well, Sula, thank you so much for joining us. And again, your bravery is sharing your story. And again, to mention before we go, for the contributions this year, I don't think it can be understated how much your story is going to help all these families across the country and across the world. So thank you for sharing what works and what didn't, and for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you for
Love
having
you,
me.
my friend.
Yes.
Love you as a friend and
Yes.
as a colleague and as a human being. And we
Yes.
are just so grateful to be connected.
Oh, and before we send you to the green room, Sula, I know that you have resources, right? Resources for the teens' mental health, resources for grief processes that are going to be coming up in 2024. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you if they want to get on the waiting list and some more information about what you have coming up?
I do have an empty website that they can check. It's zoeticjoy.com.
Yeah.
Or they can simply friend me on Facebook. I friend pretty much anyone that reaches out. So
Beautiful.
Sula Milstead on Facebook.
So
Got
we'll
it.
put that in our show notes.
Yeah.
So folks can, if they resonate with you and want to connect, they can reach out and connect and just tell Sula you heard her on Women Connected in Wisdom. and go from there. So
Thank you so much, Sula.
Thank you.
Of course.
so powerful.
So
Such a
good.
powerful story.
Yes. And unfortunately, I know that a lot of parents have been in a similar situation, you know. And when I read the chapter, it reminded me at how little I hear about it. And so, you know, I know that it's been difficult.
I'm talking about grief and loss, right? We have people in our lives that are open and authentic about it. Dr. Sheila K. Collins has a new book coming out in March called The Art of Grieving, and has been a guest on our show a couple of times, and will probably be a guest next year as this book comes out, right? Because
Hopefully,
it's an incredible resource. But yeah, it is. And I think people just need to know you don't have to do this by yourself. There are incredible people like Sula. There are people like Dr. Collins. Like, there are people that will support you on your journey, and especially if you don't know where to turn, right? So we don't have to do it by ourselves. We can do self-care and we can do community care, and that combo. So,
and when I think about it, that's what I'm most excited about for the life and health insurance, right? Is to set people up. So, and I talk about it in my chapter, not having time when my mom passed away. You know, I knew there was no money on the way. There might not be anybody on the way. There might not be resources on the way. I have to figure it out and get everything organized. And so to give people that space, you know, so they can process and unpack and look at it. And like Sula said, like feel all the feels and again, have the space for that, I think is the best thing in those difficult seasons, even as difficult as it is.
absolutely. Absolutely. All right, my friend, anything we need to shout out to our listeners before we close this episode?
Anything to shout out. We told them about the book. They know about the audiobook being released if they, if they've been listening. We did mention it, but I don't know if we mentioned it the week before. So if you guys are catching this at the end or haven't heard about it, again, we have the Connected and Vision Party coming. This is going to be our 3rd annual, get together. We're going to look at 2024 and what we see for ourselves in the 8 dimensions. So if you have time and want to be intentional about it, go on over to Eventbrite and join the event, right? We will be meeting after the podcast on January 10th.
Free event. Yeah.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
We'll put a link in our show notes.
Yes. And we'll be back live at 5 next week for episode 140. In the meantime, don't forget,
Be well,
be wise, and be whole. We'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.